and welcome to Friends of Terry Virgil. That's the name of the program, and our topic today in the episode is Obama Hates Life. Well, let's kind of explain that here, where Obama really hates America totally because he absolutely wants to violate the U.S. Constitution Amendment 2. And I'm going to read it to you. A well-regulated militant being necessary to secure, necessary to the security of a free state, the right of people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Well, there's a couple key words in there, and as we're speaking today about the Second Amendment, actually, that's what it's referred to. You got communists, socialists, liberals, and I include Obama in this thing, and Democrats, and there are Republicans that will side with the liberals, communists, socialists, and Democrats and agree that there should be something done. I am going to say it this much. According to the law, as long as we have this on the books as a law, a well-regulated militant, or military in this case, we could say it either way, being necessary for the security of a free state. We could look at that as a great possibility of saying our founding fathers, especially James Madison, wrote this amendment in keeping in mind that there are nations out there, there are tyrants out there like Obama, there are tyrants out there that like Hillary Clinton, there are tyrants out there like the puppet man, ketchup man, by the name of the Secretary of State John Kerry. There are tyrants out there that are from the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, or ISIS, or the Islamic State, Iraq, and the entire Muslim region and Muslim world. There are tyrants out there like Queen Elizabeth II, the Prime Minister of Canada, the President of Mexico, the Prime Minister of Germany, the communist leader from China, the communist leader Putin from Russia, or I like to call the Soviet Union. Or how about Kim Jong-un of North Korea, or even the Castro brothers out in Cuba. We can even include the communist leaders in South America and Central America. We could include the rest of the world with the exception of Israel. And there's the reason why we say with the exception of Israel. But we're going to get into that some other program. Let's talk about the Second Amendment here. The right of the people to bear arms. You know what, people? I'm going to say this much. Since Obama's made these threats, it sounds like a terrorist threat and a threat of a thug. So let's go with this idea. If he's going to be a thug and threaten the American people and allow things like the Islamic State, Iraq, and Syria to come in to lop off your heads or to burn you alive, including your children, your babies, your wives, your girlfriends, the person that's sitting next to you or watching a television program next to you, or reading a book next to you in a restaurant. I'm going to say it this much. If that Muslim thinks that he could get away with taking away the United States Constitution Amendment 2, he's got another thing coming. Yes, he could say, well, I'm going to write up an executive order. Well, you know what I got to say about the executive order? I got to go to the bathroom, so I'll throw that piece of paper on the floor and just pee right on it. Because he's not going to stop, including me, from wanting to bear arms. Yes, I own a rifle and I own a few other pieces, but they're for security purposes Or I like to go hunting, so I use them just to go hunting with as well, mainly. I'm not out there trying to uh, take over and be a tyrant like Obama is and take over the world like a communist would or a socialist would or anything like that or like a Muslim would want to. I'm not out there trying to do that, folks. And I'm going to say this much. You have those rights to bear arms. Matter of fact, if you go to the Declaration of Independence 1776 and read the second paragraph, fit the pieces together. It says you have the right, I'm going to say this is unalienable right granted to us by our Creator for the pursuit of happiness. If it makes you happy not to have any weapons whatsoever to defend yourself, that's your choice. It's called freedom and liberty. But if you don't want this freedom and liberty and you want to control the person next to you, you are no greater than the tyrant Obama. And yes, and any other Democrat out there. If you claim to be a conservative and you don't want the person next to you to have even a few houses around have a gun and you want to control them, then you're no greater than that tyrant Obama. And if you noticed, I have no respect for anything like a tyrant. But you made that choice not to have one. I made the choice to have what I have. And I'm going to say this much. If I see anybody with a black ski mask coming up, waving a black flag up here, or waving machetes coming towards my house, I'm going to fire. I'm going to absolutely fire upon those people and defend my home. I don't care what the tyrant Obama says that I should do. I don't care what that coward is doing. I don't care what that Muslim is thinking. As long as he's in that White House, he will obey and be the enforcer of the laws. He will enforce the laws. He doesn't like to do that. What he likes to say is, well, I am in charge and I will do what I want to do and that's it. Well, guess what? I even got a site, and I found a site from Fordham University that states that Obama, in one of his speeches, says he will not enforce the United States Constitution and any other law here in the United States of America. And with that said, that tells me that this tyrant is going to try his darn best to become a dictator, which he's already is a dictator, by the way, because when he signed his executive orders, he's dictating to how we are to live, how we are to think, and how we are to choose. As a matter of fact, he's using something called, I'm going to make it so that you fear me, so that you, America, have got to be afraid of the tyrant Obama. That's what he says. Seeing that I'm a Muslim, that's what Obama says. I am a Muslim. You will fear me because I am a Muslim. I don't know. My personal opinion is I don't know which denomination of Muslim that he believes in. Is ISIS or ISIL or Boko Haram, whatever they call that, the Taliban or Al Qaeda. I don't know which one he belongs to. But I guarantee you one thing, and I don't care which one he belongs to. I don't care which occult leader he follows as a Muslim. I will not and shall not obey any executive orders that destroy my freedom and liberty from a knucklehead tyrant, a moron of a tyrant by the name of Obama. I do not care for such idiotic thinking. Mass shootings is caused by his own type of people called Muslims. We read about that in San Bernardino. We read about that in Paris. We read about it in Belgium. And we read about it in other parts of the world, like even in Africa. So if he is saying, as a Muslim, you got to get rid of all your arms, well, what's left to do? Just come in and start shooting Americans. That's exactly the plan of any Islamic Muslim occult group or church. That's why you got to look at the Second Amendment. I read it to you completely. There isn't anything else except for one sentence. And it also, with these 4 words, shall not be infringed. If the tyrant Obama wants to violate the Second Amendment, that's his choice. But, and here's the but, he cannot infringe any executive order at all to tell Americans not to buy any arms and to arm themselves. When I say arm yourselves, that means exactly that. Be on the ready. Be Minutemen. And be ready to go out and fight to preserve freedom and liberty. That's exactly what it means. It doesn't mean to go out and rob liquor stores or rob grocery stores, rob grandma, or anything like that. You belong in jail. You're a criminal. That's the type of people that I feel maybe should be looked at and maybe shouldn't have a weapon, because those are the idiots of the world. There's where the point where I might have to say, okay, you made a point, a very valid point. And if Obama thinks that those that I guess it's called a mental health problem, which I don't agree with anybody having a mental health problem, then he better start looking in the mirror, because that means that he's judging and making judgments as a tyrant to who can and who cannot have a weapon. I absolutely say this, and I'm going to constantly say this. I don't care if it's a machine gun that you have, as long as you're able to use it properly and just to defend yourself and your private property. I know Obama has decided to go along with getting rid of private property by having HUD, or as should be called, the Housing Urban Development, take over America's housing. I know that. That's old news. Let's get to this new news. As you can see in San Bernardino, 2 occult groups got together and decided to try to do a mass shooting. One of them belonged to Al-Qaeda, and the other one belonged to ISIS or the Islamic State, Iraq, Syria. Now that there is one of those things that we can also talk about as well. What about Syria coming into the United States of America as refugees?